and welcome to this episode of Pulse Maharashtra with me, Vinaya Deshpande. I am the Maharashtra Chief of Bureau of The Hindu and your host for the show. And today we are going to do a deep dive on the issue that has refused to die and that has seen a roller coaster ride in Maharashtra's politics. It's the language debate and all the developments surrounding it, including an interview with the man who's in the eye of the storm, Dr. Narendra Jadhav. But before that, let's take you through some of the top stories of the state. This week, Maharashtra government declared Ganeshotsav one of the oldest public festivals of Maharashtra and possibly of India as the state festival of Maharashtra. Moving on, the biggest controversy, the Jan Suraksha Bill or the Maharashtra Public Security Bill was passed in both the houses amid high drama this week. While in the Vidhan Sabha or the Legislative Assembly, we did not see any dissent note even by the opposition members or the members of the joint committee which was appointed to look into the bill after December 2024 when the bill was first tabled. There was a high-octane drama in the Maharashtra Legislative Council. The opposition staged a walkout from the Legislative Council and also submitted a dissent note. What's interesting is that this comes amid severe criticism that the opposition faced for not standing up against the bill in the Legislative Assembly. The bill will now go to the governor for his assent before becoming a law in Maharashtra. And now moving on to the show. Today, the topic of discussion in Pulse Maharashtra is the language debate in the state of Maharashtra. It's been over 2 months now and the language debate has refused to die down even after the government has withdrawn the 2 GRs with respect to introduction of 3-language policy in primary education, which critics say is an imposition of the language Hindi. There are also several questions which are being raised against the National Education Policy 2020, even as protests continue, trying to pressurize the government not just to withdraw the Narendra Jadhav committee which has been appointed to look into the 3-language policy, but to scrap the 3-language policy in primary education in toto. And that's why we have seen that days after Uddhav Thackeray and Raj Thackeray, the estranged cousins who had not come on a same platform for over 2 decades, their show of strength marked a turning point in Maharashtra's politics. We saw both Uddhav and Raj join hands for what they said was the issue of Marathi, Marathi pride, Marathi asmita and the linguistic pride for the state. Even after that, we have seen that protests have continued in the state. On one hand, there are speculations on whether the reunification of Thackeray cousins will change the political equations in Maharashtra at a time when the local body elections are to come up within the next few months, the kind of implications it will have for the country's richest corporations elections, the BMC, and what are the implications it will have for the future of regional politics in Maharashtra. We have seen that the demand for the scrapping of Narendra Jadhav committee has also continued. So today we have for you the man who has been in the eye of the storm, Dr. Narendra Jadhav, under whose chairpersonship a committee has been appointed by the Maharashtra government. The committee has been given 3 months to give its report. We will hear from Dr. Narendra Jadhav his answers to all the tough questions, from what his thoughts are about national integration through homogenization, or whether he believes in regional pride and upholding the regional culture. What is his take on the criticism leveled against him about trying to further the cause of Hindi, Hindu, Hindustan? Also, what are his thoughts about the national education policy? All these tough questions being asked in a candid interview, in an interview where the answers are just as frank. So do tune in to this interview that we have taken of Dr. Narendra Jadhav.
Our starting point is going to be, what does the national education policy have to say about the so-called three-language formula? They are the ones who use that expression, three-language formula. Because the interpretation of what national education policy has said differs from place to place. There is no uniformity.
Yes.
And we also see non-uniformity in different states
Yes.
in implementation.
Yes.
They have written a general commentary. Their job was to suggest the ways and means of implementing the national education policy as far as Maharashtra is concerned. Because it is the state subject as well, it's on the concurrent list. And
It's primarily the state subject,
it
sir.
was, in fact, originally it was only state
Yes,
subject.
yes, absolutely.
It was after the Kothari Commission that it became
Yes,
a
concurrent
list.
subject,
Yeah,
yes.
right.
And
So-
that is why the debate is also that education should remain primarily the region's domain, because it is the regional asmita or pride and regional culture that it furthers.
Right. So, and that's connected with the languages.
Yes,
It's the
absolutely.
essence and sense of
Absolutely.
the language. As far as the three-language formula is concerned, to say that Hindi must be compulsory in Maharashtra. And I'm
So-
going to actually, I have to read it out. It's very clearly and unambiguously, it has been stated on page 56 of this report. And it says that English and Hindi as second language in the school should be introduced right from the first standard. Teaching of English and Hindi as second language should be made mandatory right from the first standard to 12th standard or equivalent, and if necessary also during 3 or 4 years of college education.
Yes.
Marathi and English are accepted as the first two languages. So when they talk about second language, they are obviously talking about third language, and that is what the caption is, three-language formula. It would be my endeavor to take a look at how it is implemented in all other states. What is the third language in UP? What is the third language in Rajasthan?
That is the question,
That's
yes.
right. So I'm going to take a look at how different states have actually implemented the so-called three-language formula. You see the spirit of national education policy. I won't be able to point out the specific page. And Marshall Committee also has picked it up, that whatever is done for the government schools, it would be our endeavor to encourage or induce the other private schools also to follow similar pattern. I believe that time has come for its sequel. Now with the advances in technology, movement from one language to another in the written form as well as in the oral form has become very easy, and it is going to be increasingly easier.
So with
This committee, recommendations of this committee, to the extent they are accepted, they would be shaping the future of crores of children.
Yes.
Crores of children.
Why so that is a political line to
take up that position when the municipal corporation elections are so close? You keep quiet from 21 to 25, and when the elections are close,
in 25,
Raj Bhasha Abhyas Kendra or this advisory committee appointed by the government, why should they have not, why they did not take any objection to Hindi being made compulsory at that time? They did not do their job at that time. They are suddenly awake now, and they have kept it on the shoulders of the politicians and made a political issue. I think one has to strike a balance between unity in diversity and national integration, so to say. One size fits all. We cannot have India with one size fits all. That's happens to be my personal opinion. And every language has a culture of its own, which is very, very important for the cognitive development of every child. So why burden them with so many languages? I'm not talking about Marathi versus Hindi at all. I'm raising a fundamental issue, and that is what I'm taking up against the national education policy, that why are you burdening with so many languages?
Hello and welcome everyone to this special show of The Hindu. Now, debate in Maharashtra has been raging over the three-language policy in primary education. We have been seeing protests for the last 2 months. We have also seen a rollback by the Maharashtra government. At the heart of this is the man who's with me right now, Dr. Narendra Jadhav, whose name has been suggested by the Maharashtra government as the head of the panel which is going to study the three-language policy in primary education, and the government has already stated that whatever recommendations the panel headed by him gives will be the recommendations that will be accepted by the Maharashtra government in a political development which has seen the Thakre Bandhus reunite, which has seen the regional politics take turns and twists and a roller coaster ride for the political situation. This is an important facet of the entire debate over three-language policy, and that's why this is an important conversation to understand at a national level about the debate and about its several perspectives. Let's now have a word with renowned economist, academic and administrator Dr. Narendra Jadhav. Thank you so much for joining The Hindu and for this conversation.
Thank you, and namaskar everybody.
So my first question to you is, you have been in the eye of the storm, so as to say, for the last few weeks. A protest was held expressly seeking that you should not be the head of the panel which will look into the three-language policy for primary education in Maharashtra, while there is opposition to the policy itself. Objection is that you're not qualified to look into primary education. What do you have to say to that?
I have to say that this is completely wrong information. It is based on wrong premises. Yes, it is true that I was mainly concerned earlier with the higher education as a Vice Chancellor of Pune University. But after that, that is what they have not quoted or indicated, that I was in Delhi, I was a member of Planning Commission of India, the National Planning Commission. And in National Planning Commission, what was my portfolio? My portfolio, in fact, was education, labor, employment, skill development, sports, youth affairs, social justice, but all that was comparatively small. The mainstay of my portfolio was the education, and it was entire education. We're talking here about primary education, secondary education, higher education, technical education, the works. I was the person who was in charge of the entire education sector, entire education, and I repeat that, covering everything. And for the 12th 5-year plan, that is what was the last 5-year plan, in that plan process, I was the person in charge of documentation of the policy on education as far as our country is concerned. So 12th 5-year plan, the entire national policy on education came from the Planning Commission document, and I was the principal author of that document. So I have been dealing with the issues of not only higher education, not only technical education, but primary education, secondary education as well. Now this fact somehow has been held back. In fact, the criticism went further and they said he is not from education at all. He is
that is not the... Yes, but that was not the primary objection. The primary objection was that your work is primarily in higher education and not in school related education, and that for a three-language policy for primary education for that age group, there should be an expert who would have studied specifically in primary education, which would have made the committee more credible.
Well, that is their view, but what I would say in response is that not only I was in charge of the broader picture of overall education, including primary education, many schemes in primary education, I was the one who promoted them and furthered their advances while I was in Planning Commission. And who was the person who wrote the first book on national education policy? It was me. Here is the book. This is the book that was published immediately after the national education policy came out. So how can you say that I am not concerned with primary education, that I have been only concerned. Let me say this, and many people would not like this, but do you know that the midday meal scheme, before my advent in planning commission, was applicable, was not applicable to the Muslim boys and girls. Do you know that? And who made it applicable to them? I was the one. And this is documented, whether people like it or not. So what I'm saying is that I was involved in primary education, secondary education, as much as I was involved in higher education. I was taken as a member of planning commission, not because I was expert only in higher education. It's because, I was supposed to handle the entire spectrum, including primary and secondary education.
So you've just said to our viewers as well that you were one of the first persons to write about the national education policy
Right.
after it came out in
Right.
2020.
Right.
One of the criticisms by several states, particularly the southern states, is that it seems to have a unified kind of an agenda to push against the regional identities, and that is why we are seeing that it's not just in Maharashtra where we saw extensive opposition to imposition of Hindi in a backdoor manner in the primary education, but also in several southern states where there has been a push against the national education policy. My question to you is, how do you perceive the National Education Policy 2020, and as someone who's now in charge of looking at the three language policy from the prism of NEP as well, what are the parameters that you are going to use?
Okay. Very good question. As far as our committee is concerned, our starting point is going to be, what does the national education policy have to say about the so-called three-language formula? They are the ones who use that expression, three-language formula. Because the interpretation of what national education policy has said differs from place to place. There is no uniformity.
Yes.
And we also see non-uniformity in different states in implementation.
Yes.
Now, first thing that I need to do as the chairman of this very, very important committee is to look at the specific recommendations of the national education policy and to see. Now, when I asked myself, I read that part again. I have already gone into the subject. I went back. First of all, please understand that what was the consideration for them to have a multilingual kind of setup? Basically, national integration. Their words are this: national integration, in the interest of national integration. But I think it was not proper on their part, and the interpretation given is different. So the first thing I would like to do is to give a correct interpretation and to find out whether it was recommendatory or whether it was mandatory. There is a doubt about that, whether it was mandatorily three language imposed on everybody uniformly as one size that fits all, or whether it was recommendatory. Also, it is not clear whether it was, wherever it was made compulsory, whether it was made from the first standard or from later. So there are
ambiguities, if you may say so.
So first thing what I want to do is to sort that out and see what they are saying. Now, as coming to the Maharashtra, my own state, what happened here is that this report came out in 2020 and thereabout. After that, there was a high-powered committee appointed in the state of Maharashtra under the chairmanship of great scientist Dr. Mashelkar, and many big names in higher education were part of that, many vice chancellors and very respected names. They have written a general commentary. Their job was to suggest the ways and means of implementing the national education policy as far as Maharashtra is concerned, because it is the state subject as well, it's on the concurrent list. And
It's primarily the state subject,
it
sir.
was, in fact, originally it was only state
Yes,
subject.
yes,
It was
absolutely.
after the Kothari Commission that it became
Yes,
a
a concurrent
list.
subject,
Yeah,
yes.
right.
And
So,
that is why the debate is also that education should remain primarily the region's domain, because it is the regional asmita or pride and regional culture that it
right,
furthers.
right. So, and that's connected with the languages.
Yes,
It's the
absolutely.
essence and essence of the
Absolutely.
language. So, what happened was this committee gave an outstanding report on implementation, but they have interpreted the recommendations of the National Education Policy as far as the three language formula is concerned to say that Hindi must be compulsory in Maharashtra. And I'm
So,
going to actually, I have
yes.
to read it out. I have to read it out.
I agree with you. In fact, you know, one of the points is that this committee report was specifically with respect to higher education. The name itself said higher education, and
This was about the national education policy and its implementation in Maharashtra. I
But-
would not say it was for
but
higher
the
education.
name of the report itself says, so as you have it, rethink, reimagine, reinvent higher education in Maharashtra.
But it
So
starts
while
with-
there
it
was
starts with the primary education.
yes, there was a section of it on primary education, which again there is ambiguity, just like with respect to NEP.
There's no
It talks about
No,
second language as
no,
English
no,
and
no,
Hindi.
No, there's no ambiguity. It's very clearly and unambiguously, it has been stated on page 56 of this report, and I'm reading it out under the heading Recommendations, Three Language Formula. Okay, it says that English and Hindi as second language in the school should be introduced right from the first standard. Then next page, it says on page 57, and I'm reading it out, I quote, teaching of English and Hindi as second language should be made mandatory right from the first standard to 12th standard or equivalent, and if necessary also during 3 or 4 years of college education.
Yes, but again the ambiguity there is, it says second,
Second
language.
language.
It does not say third language.
Marathi and English are accepted as the first two languages. So when they talk about second language, they are obviously talking about third language, and that is what the caption is, three language formula.
Three language formula it says, right, but then the objection to that is we are talking of Marathi and English medium schools in state governments, the state boards. So in an English medium school where the first language will be English, the second language will be Marathi, and so the third language will be whatever it is, and the wording in Mashelkar committee report is for the second language alone. Now the objection to all these things is, firstly there is an ambiguity in the national education policy with respect to three language policy in primary education.
There
Secondly,
is ambiguity in interpretation of Mashelkar committee report as well, because
Yes.
of the word mentioned second language
Yes.
rather than third language.
yes,
And then there is also an ambiguity. Keeping that in mind, then comes what is the if you look at the chronological development of all these issues, national education policy comes in 2020, Mashelkar committee report comes in 2021, nothing happens in between. The implementation starts in a phased manner, but specifically a few months back, Maharashtra government came out with a policy and they announced, GR was issued saying that Hindi would be compulsory language, third language from standard 1 to 12. Now this mirrors what that was their interpretation of Mashelkar committee report. So
as well as the national education policy.
Right. So it was their interpretation. They did that. After that was issued, there was a huge reaction. By the way, Mashelkar committee report was accepted without any change in toto by then government, which is now changing the side. Uddhav Thackeray ji was the chief minister when this report was accepted.
Yes.
Now, what happens is, when this GR was issued, there was a massive reaction that you are imposing Hindi on us, and the agitation started, and that has created a problem, and that's why in response to the agitation, the government took back, withdrew the GR, and they thought, and I completely agree with them, it was necessary to have a fresh look at this subject. And that is why a committee under my chairmanship has been announced. No members have been specified as yet, but they are expected to be announced in the next 2-3 days. So that is why this is the genesis of the committee. That is why this committee has come into being. Now, how will this committee work? This is very important. Committee will start, as I said, committee will start with the national education policy, proper interpretation. It will also study the Mashelkar committee report. In fact, the terms of reference already says that you will study the Mashelkar committee report.
Yes.
And then I am going to take a look as the chairman of this committee. It would be my endeavor to take a look at how it is implemented in all other states. What is the third language in UP? What is the third language in Rajasthan?
That is the question,
That's
yes.
right. So I'm going to take a look at how different states have actually implemented the so-called three-language formula. Having done that, then I will come to Maharashtra. As far as Maharashtra is concerned, what I'm going to do through the committee is that in different kinds of schools are there. Government schools, in that you have aided and unaided. You have government of Maharashtra schools, you have Jilla Parishad school, you have municipal corporation schools, and then you have private schools
Yes.
and international schools.
Yes.
This whole range. In all of them, what is the current status? Which language is compulsory from grade 1? Which language is compulsory from grade 5 and so on.
But sir, what is the repercussion it will have? Because you have said the entire spectrum of school, but it is still a fact that 80% of Maharashtra's students, which range in crores,
Right,
actually come under the state board.
Absolutely.
English and Marathi
Right,
medium
right,
schools,
right.
while it is only 20% of the students who come in other boards or in other forms of state board, which are not English or Marathi medium schools. Are you going to implement, are you going to think of the rules that are applicable to those 20% for something, for an 80% population of students, where the school setup, school infrastructure, availability of resources
Absolutely.
vary vastly?
Here, of course, the focus is going to be on the government schools. That is what I will go back to the terms of references. But to have a perspective, you must have a broader picture. Like 80-20 you are saying, is based on what? Your perception.
No, it's based on the government accounts. This is based on government statistics.
The point is that one has to have a holistic picture of
Yes,
the whole thing.
yes.
And also, if you see the spirit of national education policy, I won't be able to point out the specific page. And Mashelkar committee also has picked it up, that whatever is done for the government schools, it would be our endeavor to encourage or induce the other private schools also to follow similar pattern. So they, by
Will it be vice versa?
I do not know. I do not know. What I'm saying is that the bulk, the mainstay of education, school education, primary education is of course government schools. But what happens is, if you take 80% as a number, once we have a broader picture, then one can think, society, the committee can think about recommendations to be made to maybe apply similar thing, but the decision ultimately rests with the government. What I'm saying is that you have to have a broader picture.
Yes, I get your point. And you know, moving beyond what you have said right now, which is extremely crucial, I want to ask you two questions.
Please.
One is that, you know, apart from the political debate about it, which can be termed as frivolous, you know, which also stands on the basis or should stand on the basis of academic studies, the objections that are raised by academics, by people who are involved in primary education, the objection is that burdening the child from standard 1 to standard 5 with an additional language is a problem when world over it is believed that the focus should be on mother tongue, education in mother tongue, and then probably some other language where the focus, even in, in fact, this is the book you have shown to our viewers. Even in this book where you have written about NEP and where you have written about parts of primary education, you've also said that education for primary school children should be in a form which is lighter in nature, where in Marathi you say hasat khelat abhyas, which is a lighter vein, where the child is not burdened by academics. On such a background, how do you look at this objection, which is a very valid objection raised by people who are involved in this?
I completely agree with this valid objection. In fact, let me talk about myself. I started my schooling from a municipal school, Marathi medium.
Yes.
In the high school, it was again a Marathi medium.
Yes.
And I went all over. I have a PhD in United States, and I worked with the International Monetary Fund. And that one language education did not create any problem for me. It was not an obstacle. So I believe in that burdening with too many languages at that tender age is not necessarily desirable, and many child psychology experts have also pointed out there are several studies to that effect.
Yes.
So I see that point, but here we are talking about what was recommended or prescribed mandatorily by the National Education Policy, what was being done, what was recommended or prescribed by Mashelkar Committee, and what is being implemented. Now for that, this is what the committee is going to do. I agree with what you are saying, not only for the reasons that you are giving, for completely different reasons. I agree with that. You know what is that?
What is that?
The reason is, right now, the technology advances are so rapid. You know, in my frank assessment, although this was a great report, the original report, National Education Policy, a lot of work went into that, and that was headed by a great scientist, right? Mr. Kasturi Rangan,
yes.
Dr. Kasturi Rangan, who was ISRO chief and all that. I believe that time has come for its sequel. This report was written.
Time has come for NEP 2020's sequel.
Absolutely.
And yet your framework is going to be NEP 2020 as well as Mashelkar Committee report, or whether your framework is going to be the child psychologist.
My framework is what is given in the terms of references for this committee. You were asked,
which is NEP 2020 and Mashelkar Committee
yes,
report.
It is. But I am giving you one extra reason for not having too many languages burdened at the early stage. And what is that reason? Now with the advances in technology, movement from one language to another in the written form as well as in the oral form has become very easy, and it is going to be increasingly easier.
So will Dr. Narendra Jadhav look at it from a broader perspective when it comes to the future of Maharashtra primary school children's future education, or will he be bound by NEP 2020 Raghunath Mashelkar report?
No.
Are we looking at someone who's willing to look beyond that and
Absolutely.
willing to think beyond that?
Here is a person who is going to look beyond it, and given the framework, you know, I would try to recommend through my committee something which I think is in the best interest of largest number of students. You know, Bahujana Hitaya, Bahujana Sukhaya is an old slogan. It only means that the largest good for the largest number of people, greatest good for the largest number of people. The report will give the recommendations, keeping not only this is the starting point. My report will go beyond that and make recommendations. I am here to make a recommendation,
yes,
not to take any decision.
But your recommendations will also be accepted by the government the way they are, is what the Chief Minister has already stated.
It is there. Yeah, yes, Honorable Chief Minister has stated that. That's very kind of him. But while making recommendation, my feeling, my firm conviction is that I am going to do something which I am convinced is for the largest number of boys and girls. This is not ordinary committee. This committee, recommendations of this committee, to the extent they are accepted, they would be shaping the future of crores of children.
Yes.
Crores of children.
Yes.
And this is something which is, the dream for a policymaker like me. I have been in public sector all my life for what? For doing something which will influence the large number of people. That has been my story of my life.
So what do you think about the criticism that this is a step towards Hindi, Hindu, Hindustan kind of an agenda that the BJP wants to push? Do you agree with it that there should be a homogeneous language?
That's my personal opinion, and I'm not going to react to that. And this is an insinuation. Why are people opposing my committee report? First of all, they are saying that this committee is not required. Secondly, they are saying this man is not the right person. Now, please understand that a report comes out, Mashelkar committee report, which says Hindi should be made compulsory. They keep quiet. Nothing happens. Nothing happens at all. Blindly it is accepted. Later on, when the government issues the GR in line with what they understood or interpreted as the national education policy as well as Mashelkar committee report, then there is a big opposition now that this committee is not required at all.
What is your opinion about having 3-language policy in primary education?
No, I'm not going to give my personal opinion because I'm not here to talk about the content. I can talk about the process that I'm going to follow. And I have told you some steps. And while doing that, I'm going to also seek appointment of all the political leaders, including Uddhav Thackeray, Raj Thackeray, and everybody.
But Mr. Jadhav, why political leaders? Because should you be speaking to stakeholders with respect to child psychologists?
I started with my list of stakeholders with their politicians, but I'm not confining myself to only, or the committee will not confine them with only them. We're going to talk to Mashelkar committee members, Dr. Mashelkar himself, who is a dear friend and a sort of guru. I will also talk to, committee will also talk to a number of, as many stakeholders as possible. Let me tell you, I'm going to create, this is something which I have designed, nothing has been finalized because it will take some time. There would be a website created on which everybody can give their opinion. There would be a questionnaire. Everybody can give their opinion. And on top of that, all the, parents organizations, associations, all the educational institutions, all the representative of that, they can come and make a presentation to us. They can give a statement. And one stage will come, if at all it's possible. Some of them are saying, politicians saying that Amit Anna Firu Denar Nahi, we will not let Dr. Jadhav go around.
Yeah. Raj Thackeray has famously said that, because he has said that there's no need of the committee in the first place, and if it does anything which is even closely associated with 3-language policy, then
we shall see. We shall see about that. I'm going to seek his appointment as well, and I will meet him and try to understand his position. And given the choice, if it is possible, it is subject to many other things which are not in my control. I would like to, given the choice, I would like to, not only in Mumbai, but Mumbai, Pune, Nagpur, Sambhajinagar, and maybe Ratnagiri. In these places, committee will spend one full day meeting people, taking their, listening to their presentations, taking their statements. So we want to make it as broad as possible, covering all the stakeholders.
Will Dr. Narendra Jadhav committee also speak with bodies like Marathi Abhyas Kendra,
Of
like
course.
the bodies, almost 28 bodies which have been vociferous against bringing in 3-language policy in primary education?
Yes, I certainly would, and I know all of them. I would certainly like to talk to all of them, although I would like to also ask them a question. When there was a decision taken based on Mashelkar committee report that Hindi should be made compulsory, that was in 2021, none of them.
That's a political line. Dr. Narendra Jadhav, that did not translate into any of the government decisions. So that is a political line to take.
Take up that position when the municipal corporation elections are so close? You keep quiet from 21 to 25. And when
No,
the elections are
in
close,
25, the whole protest and even from within the public, the sentiments that media has covered have come up only after the GRs were passed,
right.
which specifically felt on the background of the linguistic debate that has been going on in Maharashtra for some time now.
Yeah.
This has happened not in vacuum, but has happened as, you know, a consequence of several other things which the state has faced, and that is why it's not just the organizations.
Absolutely.
So,
I
you
am
know, for
saying-
you to say that this has been taken up only now because there are elections,
no.
the political
This
parties jumped on the bandwagon much later. The people are the one who came up with this, who rallied behind this,
Right,
and
right.
who said that there is an objection to Hindi being imposed on us.
what did the Marathi Adhyayan Kendra,
Marathi Abhyas Kendra.
Abhyas Kendra, what did, there are many committees, many organizations, some of them are state organizations.
Yes.
Rajya Sallagar Samiti, Rajya Bhasha Sallagar Committee, there is State Advisory Committee on Education. What did they say? And common man not responding is fine. It was there. But Raj Bhasha Abhyas Kendra or this advisory committee appointed by the government, you know, why should they have not, why they did not take any objection to Hindi being made compulsory at that time? They did not do their job at that time. They are suddenly awake now and they have kept it on the shoulders of the politicians and made a political issue.
No, the whole point is everything of this started only after the government issued an order for schools to be implemented in 2025, and the opposition to it.
Between 2021 to 2025, those who claim to be advisors on education, language education, did not say a word. They kept quiet. That's my objection. It was not in the news.
Yes,
It was
that
not
is your
debated.
objection, which is taken, but there is also a state curriculum framework which was being framed and in which all the stakeholders were asked to give in their side. It is through that discussion and debate, and you know, there are several questions which are being asked since last year, since the time the Sukanu Samiti or you know, the core committee was formed as well. So this is not a debate that has gone in the vacuum.
Certainly.
When you say this, that what were these people doing for 5 years, it is also true that since last year objections were being raised to the very same, it all came into public domain
When
because
the
the issue, yeah. So let us, this is muddling this with political issues, which will not get us to the core of the
This
issue.
is not muddling done by me. It is being muddling has been done by others.
Which is exactly
for
why the
political
Hindu
reasons.
does not want to get involved into this, because the point is to get to the core of the debate.
Correct.
For the viewers as well to understand what the core of the issue
I am saying
is.
that core of the debate happens to be politics and proximity of the municipal corporation elections.
Well,
if that is at the core, what will you do? You see, politicians, let them do what they want to do. As far as I am concerned, I am going to give my report completely non-partisan, completely what my conscience dictates to me, and completely in the interest of the largest good of the largest group of boys, girls, and you know, teenagers. So I want to be very clear that although the center has moved to politics, I am going to pay no attention to that. My focus is on giving the best possible recommendation in the largest interest of students.
What will be the time frame in which your committee
3
will
months
submit the
has
report?
been given to me as a time frame, but even the committee has not been announced so far. But I will finish that in 3 months.
Which will again be, you know, if you have talked of the political issues, which will again be a lot closer to the political happenings. Do you think that will cause a political stir thereafter?
I have no control over what is happening in the political sphere. I have no control. I am accepting as a part of citizenry. So I will complete the report once they give me complete terms, and the committee, I will finish in 3 months. I have always finished all my reports. This is 35th report of mine as far as all India level is concerned, and as far as Maharashtra is concerned, this is my 5th report.
Will there be a critique of the national education policy moving beyond the report that you're going to submit?
Yes, it will. It will. It will also be a critique of the national education policy, and they have, in my opinion, let me give you something that you are trying to reach there. I think they have given a priority to national integration over the cognitive understanding of children. That's my personal opinion. I'm going to relook at the whole thing and go well beyond the national education policy. In fact, I will add something more. Earlier I said you need a sequel of this for the national education policy. One reason I gave you about the language, we talked about it. Even generally speaking, I want to go way beyond that. You know why? As an economist, I'm saying this. You know, the world had changed so fast, so much. You know, the policy was written. It's a very, very good policy at that point of time. This was pre-COVID. After COVID, the technology, you know, the so-called Industrial Revolution 4.0, and I have a book on that too. It started in 2016, but it really got momentum in 2020 after the COVID. Now, in my policy, while criticizing the government, the report, I have said that there is a need for transition to education 4.0 everywhere, 4.0, in consonance with the consonance with the Industrial Revolution 4.0 that is currently
Which
going on.
will include the view on
So-
policy
so
language as well.
I have said here that the new national education policy, supposedly visionary document, hardly makes any conscientious efforts towards the much needed transition to education 4.0 corresponding to the ongoing industrial revolution 4.0. This involves the entire range of the new age technology, which besides artificial intelligence also includes machine learning, data analytics, robotics, blockchain technology, additive manufacturing, and Internet of Things. This is something where our education system has to move if we have to keep pace with time. Here we are not talking about language, I am talking about the whole content. Please let us understand that with the rapid changes which are taking place right now everywhere and in India as well, many of the big companies which we have been proud of, you know, in Hyderabad and Bangalore, there is a big possibility predicted by experts that very large number of people would not be required there because of the artificial
But that will
intelligence.
not be a part of the committee that
No,
you
no,
are
no.
heading for.
What I'm saying is, I'm reinforcing my argument that the national. First of all, your question was whether I'm going to go beyond national education policy.
Yes.
I'm saying yes, and on two counts. Not only in respect of the language formula, but also I'm going to make a proposal out for a sequel for broader reasons, and these are very important reasons. You just imagine what will the ordinary BA, BSc type of people, where will they find jobs? Are there going to be jobs for them? They are already gone, And
That
now,
will be, yes. And
so this is this is very, very important.
absolutely, but that's
So
the
I'm
whole
talking-
point being that, you know, right now the terms of reference that will be given to you which are given to you are with respect to the specifics of three language policy in primary
Correct.
education alone,
Correct.
in which interpretation and moving beyond NEP 2020 will have to adhere to.
will be done.
Yes, I have one last question for
Please.
you. National integration through homogenization or regional pride and regional culture upholding of it?
I think one has to strike a balance between unity in diversity and national integration, so to say. One size fits all. We cannot have India with one size fits all. That's happens to be my personal opinion. And every language has a culture of its own, you know, which is very, very important for the cognitive development of every child. You know, so mother tongue happens to be the most important one. And with the technological advances, movement to other languages, it's going to be very, very easy. So why burden them with so many languages? I'm not talking about Marathi versus Hindi at all. I'm raising a fundamental issue, and that is what I'm taking up against the national education policy. That why are you burdening with so many languages, even as a recommendatory? Why? That time has changed. The time frame, when the policy came, there was a feeling that this will be valid for 20, 25 years. Things have gone, we have missed the bus. Things have changed. China has introduced this from grade 1. Some languages consistent with artificial intelligence and so on. Why can't we do that? So that can be a third language or second language. So there are many possibilities, and one has to think ahead of the greatest good, not now only, but also in the years to come for the future. We're talking about the future of nation. We're talking about few generations of young kids and their future. I think you cannot take it lightly, and you cannot take it only on the political angle. I think we have to think through and give the best possible recommendation. That is my intention.
Dr. Narendra Jadhav, thank you so much. The point is, with all these broader views and perspectives, it will be seen by the state of Maharashtra and also by the larger educational debate around the 3-language policy about how do you handle this whole issue of how relevant NEP 2020 is right now, what the broader vision should be vis-a-vis the terms of reference which your committee has been given, and what will it translate into for the crores of school children in Maharashtra for the state board students. Thank you so much for this conversation.
For Maharashtra, I will tell you, the report that I produce, the committee will produce, will have a bearing which will be received by many other states. Remember, this is the first time Maharashtra has taken initiative to rework the whole thing. But I think the implications are for all states, and so it does not. It is primarily, the report would be recommendatory for the children, future of the children in Maharashtra, next so many generations. But it will have wider implications, nationwide implications, and I have no doubt about it.
Thank you so much for that wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
I was glad to have you on the Hindus platform and with regional politics and its ramifications, not just for Maharashtra but for several other states as well coming up. This issue, as Dr. Narendra Jadhav said, will have widespread ramifications. Thank you for watching this special broadcast.
Thank you. Namaste.